All right. I believe we are live streaming. That's what my computer's telling me. Hello, everybody. It's good to have you with us tonight. And we are recording at the same time. So, okay. So, hello, everybody. It's good to have you with us tonight. Those of you that have joined us through Power Faith Radio, we thank you so much. Please just feel free to go check out our Facebook page, which is called A Simple Walk. It is a public page, and you can go there and find the links. I know you're listening to Power Faith Radio, but you can find the links to join us in YouTube. And better yet, why don't you come on into the Zoom room and visit us here? If you're watching us on YouTube right now, I think we're live streaming. You can also come on. Thank you, Ronald, for that thumbs up. For we are live streaming. You can also come on over to our Zoom room. Go to A Simple Walk Facebook page, and there you'll get the Zoom link. You can send us an email. I'll just throw this in real quick, Terry, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. You can send us an email. Just send the email to outreachnoah@gmail.com. There you can ask us all kind of questions, and we'll go from there. There comes Christopher. So, all right. Oh, all right, Terry, you want to take off, and I'm going to do a couple things here real quick.
Let me take off. Where you want me to go?
Around in circles. That's what I do today.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our Outreach Noah class tonight. Thank you for joining us. As Scotty has said, everybody's welcome to come into the Zoom room. If you want to, you can visit the Simple Walk Facebook page. Had a brain freeze right there for a second. And Scotty's got the links there posted where you can come in and join us. And again, you don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to. It's fine. You can come in and join us if you want to. Greetings. Let's see here. We've got Ronald tonight and Bob and Sabra. One's upstairs, one's downstairs. Long story, short story, however you want to put it. Thomas, Chris, and Will, and Veronica is with us all tonight. And, of course, Power Faith Radio. Welcome again from all of those around the world and local in the States that comes to us on Wednesday nights. As Scotty said, just feel free to email us any questions at any time. Subjects that we're going through over the last few weeks and into the next several weeks. Anything that, as we're discussing, feel free to shoot Scotty some questions, comments, whatever for class discussion, and we'll just take it as easy and slow as we need to, because this is, for me, I feel like it's an important and a timely topic as well.
Yeah.
For the state of where the world's at today. And tonight we're going to continue on. Last week we did a little bit of a review of the first week and went on a little bit. We talked about Rosh Hashanah, which has now started in Israel and also here in the eastern United States at sundown. It's something we don't celebrate as far as a holiday. It's not given to us, it's given to Israel. But as we said last week, it has a universal meaning that it is the universal day that God judges the world.
You have new mail.
Do what?
That I don't know what that was.
Okay. Well, anyhow, as we discussed last week, if you want to check out last week's video, it's like I said, it's not a holiday that we the nations observe as far as a holiday. That's for Israel to do. But our part is that God judges the whole creation, brings all of his creation under judgment, looks at them, counts his sheep, as you might want to say, and then renders the judgments for the past year, sets the judgments and things going on for the next year. And we can bring, we'll talk about that more later when we go through, the holiday again, as we're going through some more of the Torah portions and things that we do. But it's began tonight. Just keep Israel in your prayers. They're at war. Iran's declared war with them. Many of us know people over there. We know people that have family that is over there. I've got a good friend in New Jersey. His mom and dad still lives in a village just outside of Jerusalem. Scotty and I's teacher lives in Safat, and they're within rocket range from Lebanon. And so there's a lot of people. Keep everybody that's been in the flood zones because of this hurricane from Florida to East Tennessee. North Carolina got hit hard. I've been seeing some real hard, heart-wrenching news coming out of there. Scotty and I've got a friend that's lives not too far from me that's helped going up and doing some work up there as a volunteer. So keep all of those folks in prayer. I know Scotty will probably bring it up during Sadaka time.
Yeah.
All right, Scotty, you about ready?
I'm ready. Yeah. Tom, I've had a little discussion with him. He's kind of staying close to home, and not kindly. He's trying to get all of his efforts right outside here and then working out. And so, but he is doing some great things, and they're getting another load together to go. So to help and relief. And anytime you think of something of this magnitude, one truckload doesn't fix it. 10 truckloads doesn't fix it. You just have to do, and you can't, I'm sorry to say that we can't help everybody, but we can help somebody.
Right.
And that's what counts. And that somebody will get help and then help the next person. I did see a couple articles. I'm going to say this real quick that from Tom, that there's some people that was able to get their wells up and running, and so they're supplying water for as many people that can make it to them. We're not just talking about one or two; we're talking about several, and they're getting fresh water out. And so anyway,
Scotty.
Yeah.
Also, there's some news reports that I heard down here on one of the radio stations. As hard as this is, and a lot of people are suffering, there are evil idiots out there.
Yeah.
And there's been some reports of people slashing the tires of these trucks delivering emergency rations, the telephone, the big trucks, the lineman trucks. They're pulling off, rest areas, getting rest, waking up to tires being slashed. And in the midst of this horror, there's people out there that they're doing evil. And so keep even all the volunteers, the rescue people, all the people going up helping out with electrical, with the linemen and all that. Help pray about those being, keep the evil away from them so they can go do the job that they need to do to help, get our country back up and going on this side of of our country.
And be conscious of your gifts on don't just give it to the first page you see come up. Do some research on it, check out where it's going. So anyway, I just want to tell you that.
Go ahead. I just remembered I heard that on the way to work the other day, and that was just
I saw that. Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah. So okay. All right. We do have much to pray about tonight, and we have some great news. I'm going to let Ronald, you can share that news about what you heard, right? Okay. So when I get to that, I'm going to let you share that because that's magnificent to me. That's just great. So as always, Terry and I, as he spoke to our main teacher, Pesach Sherbo, we're giving tzedakah for Pesach and his wife, Shira Sherbo. And then we're also giving tzedakah tonight for Rabbi Moshe Shulman and in his endeavors and recovery. Also, Christina Hall is in our tzedakah list tonight, and Nadine Akins is also on our tzedakah list tonight. Also, Harleen Hool is still in our tzedakah list tonight, and Chrissy Seaton. We're giving two for her. We're giving one, just remembering her in her recovery efforts, and we're also giving a Thanksgiving tzedakah tonight. So, Ronald, would you like to pick up right there and tell us the great news? I think it's great news.
It is. Chrissy sent me a text the other day, and she'd had an appointment with a specialist. And I don't know if everybody recalls, but after the heart operation, she was told that because it had been such a long-term deterioration, that she would only have 20% heart function into the future with no means of it changing. Well, some tests were done, and her heart function is moved to 60%.
Oh, it's God.
That is great. That is great. That is great. Awesome news. Awesome news. All right. That's why we gave the Thanksgiving tzedakah for Chrissy Seaton. Also, we're giving tzedakah tonight for Michael Garland. We're giving tzedakah for him, and Connie House Miglish. We're giving tzedakah. Remember Connie Miglish in your prayers. And then also we're giving tzedakah tonight for Jeremy Kibbe. I just felt like keeping him on our tzedakah list. And hold on, Juanita Bledsoe. We're giving tzedakah for Juanita Bledsoe. And then the Roberts family. We're still remembering the Roberts family tonight and in their loss. And then also Hudson Grisham. We're also still got Hudson Grisham. Now we've got a care package for him as soon as all the products get here that we've kind of put together for him. They live in Alaska, and because of the floods, some of the packages have been held up in coming this way. But as soon as they get here, we're going to get them in one big container. I think what we're going to do is wrap everything individual, then put it in one big container so he can just, he's like a little over a year old. And so we're going to wrap everything individual and then stick it in a big box and let him pull everything out and have the fun of opening it up. I remember when my kids was little and we got them presents, they played with the wrapping in the boxes more than they did the present. So anyway, so next is Ronald Dickman is still on. How you doing, Ronald?
I'm doing quite well at the moment. Still waiting for my appointment, but things have settled a lot, so the pain levels aren't as frequent.
Okay. And how's your sister doing?
There's no actual breakage to any of the bones in the foot. Looking like it's just severe soft tissue damage. She's slowly healing.
Okay, give me her name again, Ronald. I apologize. Diane. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. And then William and Tina Lyons is on our tzedakah list. And then on our blessed memory tonight, we have Johnny Moore on our blessed memory tzedakah list. So give me just 1 minute for suddenly my computer is just trying its best to not do what I want it to do. Would you help us pray tonight? I think we're still okay. My computer told me it was running slow, so okay. Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For we know that you are a God who hears our prayers and our supplications. Our King, do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, are you about ready to start? Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Oh yes, Veronica. I'm so yes, Veronica. I knew there was another one that I didn't go through all of the messages. I'm sorry. Pamela Steffi, is that how you pronounce that? Veronica?
Yeah, I believe so.
Pamela Steffi, we're giving that right now. Thank you, Veronica, for helping this. You see, when this part gets out of place, Veronica, it just messes my whole day up. So thank you, Veronica, for throwing that in there. All right, Terry, are you ready?
Yeah, we can go.
Okay.
Well, do we have any questions, comments, or any discussions from last week?
No, we had a lot of comments, just normal discussions, but nothing to formulate into a question or anything like that. So I'm sure in where you're going tonight, I'm sure there's going to be some good questions that's going to come in tonight.
All righty. Anyone here in the room got anything that we need to discuss before we jump in? Okay. Good and quiet on the Western Front.
A good quiet on the Western Front.
That's sad movie.
Yeah.
But it's an easy saying.
We have a question, Terry.
Go ahead.
Before it doesn't really have anything to do with, I don't think, your discussion, but can Noahides blow the shofar on this for this new year?
It's one of the things that we shouldn't do because that's one of the direct commandments. Actually, that is the commandment of the day. The Hebrew name of the day that's in Leviticus 23 is Yom Teruah, the day of blowing. So that is a specific commandment for them at this day. So we shouldn't be doing it as, part of the commandment or really even celebration. I mean, like I've blown mine before. It's been a while. Well, the other night's first time I've probably done it in 2 or 3 years when we were, showing you that one. But I would be careful with that because since it's not our commandment, it's not our tradition, it's not our custom to blow it during the festival time. If you want to blow it other times, go for it. I enjoy when I used to wake up the neighbors and the dogs, and I'd step on the front porch and then blow my Yemenite on them. But I would just be careful around the holiday since it's not something we're commanded to do, and it would be easy to blow it with the sense that you're somewhat connecting to the holiday, and it's not really for us; it's for them because it is. And of course, there's a specific way it's blown for the holiday that they do. Like I mentioned last week, if you ever get a chance to go to YouTube, look up some videos on YouTube with some of the Jews blowing the shofar for Rosh Hashanah. It's got a specific certain notes that they've got to hit, and it's got a certain numbers, ups and downs, and it's really beautiful that they do to fulfill the commandment that God gave them to do for this specific time.
Ronald's got his hand up.
Go ahead, Ron.
Fred's on YouTube and he's asking, can tzedakah be given for the loss of life due to the hurricane?
So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, especially, in helping families bury, members of their families and friends that have passed. But yeah, anytime, tzedakah is just an easy way to kind of just in general way to remember what tzedakah is. I mean, it's kind of Rabbi Sachs has got a really, really good breakdown on what tzedakah is versus charity in English. But an easy thing to understand where tzedakah is different from charity. Charity generally comes from a sense of giving from what you have to help out. You're giving from yourself, where tzedakah is actually where you're taking that which is God's and you're moving it and putting it into the right place. So it could be, he's given you a responsibility. Here's this, and giving you a responsibility to do with it and move it into the right place. That's just an overall way to look at that. It goes a lot deeper than that. And sometime maybe I'll share what Rabbi Sachs has on that. It's really interesting, very thought-provoking of the difference between biblical tzedakah versus just charity. Because there's things that charity can't be and tzedakah can be, and several things at once. And so it's kind of interesting. But just remember, it's where you're taking what belongs to God and you're using it and putting it in the right place. And so, yes, tzedakah can be help, for the healing of those who've passed away, to taking care of, because it's going to cost money to do these things. So if that's what you're asking, Fred, maybe is to help out because there's been so much that's going on. They're going to need help in those areas.
I talked to the local funeral home that I deal with here, and asked him in these circumstances what happens, and they set up areas to bring the people and identify them first, and then they move them because of the flooding, there's no facility there that can fix the person, and so they move them outside the area to have them fixed to a prepared for a later date.
Yeah,
because you got to remember that most of the family sites are, not able to get to, or, so anyway, he was kind of filling me in on what they do. And so, okay.
Okay. Did it help you out, Fred?
Hope so.
All righty. I'm going to pick up on the last statement of this section of what we were talking about last week and start there. It's Genesis chapter, the passages we're going to be kind of talking about tonight is Genesis 6, 12 and 13, which we've been covering for the last couple weeks. And understands this, and God saw the earth, and behold, it had become corrupt, and for all flesh it corrupted its way on the earth. And the sages have made this statement that the entire society had fallen. Immorality, idolatry, and social injustice ran so deep that the entire human society had lost its moral right to exist. That the generation of the flood lost its right to even exist because of the immorality, the idolatry, and the social injustice. It was so deep and so horrid. Like we said earlier, that there were in the injustice or the immorality aspects of it, people of power were stealing other men's wives to bear children for them. There was raping, kidnapping of women. There was going on, and of course, the other, forbidden sexual relations that goes on with perversion and things that were going on that ran so deep. And the idolatry, which, entered in during the generation of Enosh, grandson of Adam. And of course, the social injustice, the perversion of law that made theft legal in different ways. We've discussed a little bit of that. But all of humanity lost its right to even exist, except for Noah. And because of him, the Creator allowed him to take his family along with him. It says that they corrupted its way upon the earth. And in the Hebrew, there it is Darko Haaretz, his way in the world. The Derek Eretz, as it's pronounced. In English, it's the way of the world or way of the land. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. This is going to seem like we're not going to get into everything tonight. I'm wanting to, over the next couple of weeks, cover these different aspects. But we're going to just introduce them tonight a little bit. And some are going to look at this and think, well, this is so simple. Well, it's already kind of going on. Understand what I'm going to be bringing out tonight, that the sages has listed for us. Yes, it may seem simple. It may seem like, why are we discussing something like this? It's so simple. If it wasn't, yes, it was so simple, but it was so important that it cost all humanity, except for that one family, their life. So there is an importance to what we're going to look at tonight. So when we look at that, they had corrupted their way on the earth, the way of the land. When we read verses 6, Genesis chapter 6, 12 and 13, and God saw the earth, and behold, it had become corrupt, and for all flesh had corrupted its way on the earth. There was a couple of questions that arise from this passage. I've read these passages most all my life that I could even read the scriptures, and never even thought about questions by just looking at the passages. until I was taught how to read the Torah. The first question is what was the way that became corrupted? Just think about that. They corrupted its way, or his way. It can be translated his way as well. Meaning his representing all of humanity. What was the way? If it became corrupted, what became corrupted enough to lose your life over? And number two, when we look into these passages, there's something interesting, is that there appears to be, in the absence of revealed divine law, what system was in place to govern societies both functionally and morally? What system was there? The Torah hadn't been given. It was 26 generations between Adam and Mount Sinai. And so there was a system that was there to govern society in its legal functions and in its moral and ethical functions. The Torah itself does not give us any details or information on what this way was. Because, see, it was oral tradition passed down from Adam. It was oral tradition that Noah knew, and he passed it to Shem, and Shem and his grandson Eber taught Abraham and his children in a cave in Safat. It's called, in English, it's called the school, or the yeshiva of Shem and Eber, the school of Shem and Eber. We get a hint, Genesis 18, because God, he looked upon and he saw and he loved Abraham because he taught his children the way of God. That's what it says in Genesis 18. He taught the way of God. But this way was what was passed down orally. Adam through his children to Noah, to Shem, to Abraham. And Abraham was loved by God because he taught his children and household the way of God. But the Torah does not give us any details of this way. At least with Abraham in Genesis 18, we learned that it is tzedakah and mishpat, which we'll get into when we get there to study that chapter a little bit, which in this series, I'm wanting to do some different areas that connect with what we're talking to tonight. And Genesis 18 will be one of those that we'll get into. But the sages of Israel thus analyzed the nature of the corruption that the Torah does tell us about. It tells us about immorality, idolatry, and injustice, Hamas. And so the sages delved into the Torah and what it tells us about the corruption of the generation of the flood, and the understanding of the core principles of basic human behavior which governs society was formed. By studying what the Torah tells us what went wrong, we can see what was the right way. The things that is mentioned that cost a whole generation of humanity its life. By looking at what caused the flood, we can understand what it was that they were supposed to be doing. We can begin to understand the way that became corrupted through the corruption. By studying the corruption, the sages throughout the millennia understands what the Derek Eretz was, the way of the land, the way it was. What we have learned is that the corruption consisted of, as we've mentioned, immorality. All sorts of immorality was committed. As I've said, the kidnapping and rape of women, stealing other men's wives to produce children for them. Idolatry, along with the the formation of a priesthood, which we've talked about. And in this series, I'll go through again the generation of Enosh that the Rambam tells us about, because a priesthood was formed, temples were formed, idols were built, sacrifices were created, and it went on for so long that the Creator had become forgotten, because all they knew was the religion of the priest. Theft, robbery, and Hamas.
Terry,
Social,
when you
go
get
ahead.
to a place, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, I'll read this sentence here right here that I've written in. Theft, robbery, and Hamas. Social theft through coercion, fraud, and robbery done under the guise of law. And that's what we're seeing a lot today. We're beginning to see laws made in our land here in the United States, in our individual states that you may live in, laws that are making it legal to do the things that violates the laws of God. And this was going on at the time, the generation of the flood. So just think about it. Research some of the laws of our country and of your state that you live in, and look at what some of these, like was brought to my attention, the civil asset forfeiture law that I brought out is a perfect example that's going on in our country. And that's this, as I've studied this, and as I've been growing and paying more attention to what's going on in our own land, I'll be honest with you, it gives me concern. Gives me a lot of concern. I find myself pondering and meditating and praying about a lot of these things a lot more than I used to. Go ahead, Scotty.
Okay, take a deep breath for me. So I want to address the laws first that you just said, they're corrupt laws. Now, the justice system that we have today in its entirety, and I'm just going to make this statement, it's pretty good. Now, there are people that are making laws, and I'm not talking about political parties.
Right.
It's on both sides now. So we're not going to bring in political things, and we're not even going to bring religious things into it. We're just going to bring in people who have selfish attitudes, are rising themselves to position to present and make laws that are not for the law-abiding citizen.
Right.
If I can just say that.
Right.
And part of the problem is the law-abiding citizens are not applying themselves to help stop these, to present a justice system that helps everyone. Am I making a correct statement there?
No. I mean, yeah. I mean, like myself, I wasn't raised in a political atmosphere type home. I was probably 30 something before I voted for the first time. And so I find myself, and one of the things that I mean, I've even prayed to the Creator about, kind of like the country song, I'm the little man, I'm the little guy. What can I do? I'm not involved. How do I help? What do I do? And because I've never been involved, like, especially moving to this new community that I'm at, been here 3 years, all the names it's on all the yard signs and stuff, I don't know who they are, what they stand for. It would take me a long time to try to research each one to see who would be somewhat worthy of a vote, I guess you can say. So then I probably want to say there's probably a lot of people in the same boat that I'm in. So how do we get involved? That's a question I do. How do we get involved in our society?
Are you asking me that question?
Yeah, no, it's a question, because I think sometime maybe we can have a good discussion sometime just on this issue, with the radio group and the YouTube group. We just get together and we talk, how can we become an impact for uprightness? And like I said, we're not talking about, you're going to see, we're not going to be talking about religious stuff. It's just upright living that God demands of us.
Yeah. And it's not even political or
no,
religious.
It's not even political.
Yeah. It's just,
You're going to see six areas I'm going to cover that the sages have found in studying this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me tell you an issue right here. Maybe this might help. I live in a congested area, and there are 3 schools real close to me. And of course, when you're driving out in the morning, when the buses are bringing in the kids, a lot of kids don't ride the bus. They're walking the sidewalks going down to the school. And so what cars will do on the main roads, they have the flashing lights, 20 miles an hour, slow down, school zone. And what people will do, they'll cut off those school zones and cut in the side streets and speed, because they know they're not going to get caught there. And so they make their way out. So I was talking to a couple of people. Okay, what can be done with this? And we decided, well, what can be done is paint red marks on all streets that's within the school zone area. And that if somebody's caught speeding in these zones, they're going to get the hammer laid down on them. So we wasn't doing any good. We tried, and we still don't have them. But it wasn't the fact that we're still trying, but we're now getting a hold of the people that do make decisions, and we're letting them go forth with it. So that, we have to learn the chain of command. That's the first thing we have to do, is learn the chain of command. So anyway, I just throw that in.
No, this is the simpleness of, it can be simple, but yet difficult. You know what I'm saying? Because the difficulty is like someone like myself who was never around people who are involved with our civic duties, and how can we get involved, in things. And like I said, I think sometimes we just need to get together with everybody that like comes to our class, and maybe have some times where we're just, hey, let's hash some of these things out. What can we do in our, help the little guy out here make a difference in some way, for the betterment of his community and her community. And so that's kind of what what I'm covering is about over, the last couple of weeks and going forward, because it's such an important, it's more important than I ever thought about. When I read these 6 areas that the sages have delved out of the Torah, and I look at them and I'm like, well, all of us, I'm gonna be honest with you, all of us live every one of them almost every day in some format or fashion, and don't even think about it. But yet, because these were corrupted, it caused a divine decree, because the sages have said this stuff is so practical. The Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, even in his commentary on this passage, said that there did not need to be a prophet sent, because this is something that we're born with, this knowledge of uprightness. It's already there, and we have a obligation. And even the sages says that there are commandments that are obligated that are not commanded, but they're therefore, when we're held responsible for them, because they're that logical that they don't have to be spoken out. And this is the 26 generations before the Torah. The thing about it is, and just we'll get to this even further down the road too, is that it didn't stop with the Torah. The Torah upholds this. It upholds these standards. It didn't supersede them. It actually upholds them and actually gives definition to some areas in a written format that was given to Israel. And that's why they're the lights to the nations, is because they can take what God gave for them and they can show us how where all of this fits in now that there is a divine written law, the Torah. The seven, what we call the seven laws, of the Creator for the nations, ties into all 6 of these areas. The theft, the murder, and all this. You'll see how all this ties together. It's a package system that was there that governed society, and it was logical to that generation. And matter of fact, the sages said they had the responsibility of fixing it, and because they didn't fix it, it's kind of an analogy I've used before. And growing up, Mom would get on to my brother and I, you need to clean your room up. You don't want me to clean it up for you. Well, being preteens, 13, 14 years old, right in that area, we ignored Mom. We came home from school one day and everything that had been laying in the floors was gone in trash bags. Gone. She threw them away. She said, I'm going to throw it away if you don't clean it up. You messed your room up, you clean it up. And how many times do we pray, God, come and fix our society, when God said, you made your mess, you clean it up. You don't want me to clean it up. And that's what happened with the flood. They made a mess of the room and they wouldn't clean it up. Well, guess what? He came and cleaned it up. And I kind of use that analogy. I mean, I experienced it with my own daughters when they were young. My eldest had all of her Barbie stuff out, and youngest had all of her ball stuff out, and I don't even think you could see the carpet for it. And we kept telling them, you don't want Daddy to come in there and clean that room up. Well, they ignored. Daddy went in and cleaned it up. I didn't throw their stuff away, but I did put it in trash bags. I hid it in the barn for about 2 weeks, and they thought I threw it away. You know what I'm saying? And so when we look at this way of the land, this is not impossible for us. And it's actually God expects us, the Creator expects us to behave this way. And when our room gets dirty, we have a responsibility of cleaning it up. Because if He comes and cleans it up, He's going to mean business. And He did that. And He's not going to do it with a flood. Again, He's not going to do the whole earth. But there are places on the earth that if He steps in to clean it up, it's generally, we don't want Daddy to come in and clean our bedroom up when we can do it ourselves. And that's just the analogy that I use.
Can I throw a couple more?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm getting to another. I got another question here. I want to add to what you just said. Mine was guarding my mouth, not saying things, hateful to people, and even if not to retaliate, when people say, just, my grandmother had a saying, bite your lip. And of course, when you live around here, bite your lip means, close your mouth. Well, now there's times when I get up in the morning. Now I'm an old man, and there's times I get up in the morning, I really have to question whether I want to put my teeth in or not. So I won't have to bite my lip. So I guess everybody understands what I just said, because there are days I want to leave the house and I'm just going to tell these people off.
Right.
But I found that the genetic code inside my body, when I get there and I'm ready just to blast them out of the water, I end up telling them, have a good day. It's good to see you. So
yeah, that's actually, be honest with you, that's one of the points that we're going to be getting into.
Okay. And
because I found, like I said, Monday and before class, Monday and Tuesday, my schedule has changed at work. I'm now 7 to 5:30, 10 hours on Monday and Tuesday on the counter, and I'm having on the parts counter back there, and it gets hectic. I mean, we had 140 something appointments Monday, and Tuesday we had almost the same. And then there was some, there's that quinky dink that gets thrown in the mix of everything. And I'm still trying to learn how my coworker, he's the Baptist pastor I tell you about. He's 67. And I looked over at him because we can talk, our languages, and I said, I think we're being used to Stretch Armstrong today. I said, the kids don't know who that is, but I said, I'm being pulled and Stretch still here. And I mean, we had some pretty rough situations the last couple of days. And Tuesday, with the thing that happened, reminded me of Novaria, because when I went and had my discussion with the judge before tonight this week, I had forgotten about this area, and I guess he allowed this to happen to remind me, you didn't bring this up. And it's in one of the things we're going to be covering about. But the fact is of not letting, and this is something I have to work on, and I know this is going to be for other people as well, not letting someone else's bad character ruin your character. Because it's so easy. Because I had a situation this week that I was just really just like, the guy is just out and out, just rude. I mean, bad rude. And I'll be honest with you, I said some things I shouldn't have said, not to him, but it did kind of come out, and I had to apologize to some of my coworkers that heard me use some words that I shouldn't have been using, but it broke me to that point. And so it was like, as I was thinking about that, today I thought, oh, I didn't talk to the Creator about that shortcoming I have of letting someone else's bad character push me to where my character joined theirs. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's one of our points, believe it or not, that I'm fixing to get to.
So Bob, not this Bob.
Not this Bob.
Bob over here.
Not downstairs Bob.
Not downstairs Bob. This Bob over here said that, my luck, I'm going to try to keep my composure. My luck is the day I would forget not put my teeth in so I could tell somebody off, they would invite me to lunch, pay for my lunch, and buy me a T-bone steak.
Yeah, I can understand that. Thanks, so, I can relate.
Yeah. So I got one more question that okay. Came up over here, and I don't know if you want to. I don't think you got time to cover it tonight, but it would be a good thing to cover in one of these classes while we're on this subject. And the thing was, the earth was corrupt. That's why that the Creator needed to give the 10 Commandments. Is there anything before the 10 Commandments that gives information that there were laws in place prior to the 10 Commandments?
I can discuss that in detail later, but I do want to answer their question in kind of a brief format, because they did ask the question. First of all, the 10 Commandments wasn't given to the world. They were given to Israel. If you look at the standard plaque of the 10 Commandments, I'm just going to put it, it's out there. The church system that built that system of the 10 Commandments, the way they recorded it, deliberately left off part of the first commandment. Because part of the first commandment in Exodus chapter 20, verse 2, tells us that, I am Hashem, your God, who brought you out of the land of slavery and the house of bondage and so forth. And then goes, and you shall not have any other gods before me. That first sentence that's left out of that list is part of that commandment. And that particular part of the sentence tells us who is giving it and who's he's giving it to. And the 10 Commandments was given to Israel because we weren't brought out of the house of bondage. Is there a spiritual aspect that we can say? Yeah, we can play around with that and say we all have our own bondages. But when we're looking at literally of the author, who is saying it and who's he saying it to, it's Creator speaking to Israel at that time. That being said, the earth was not left without the commandments, because even the sages talk about in the absence of revealed divine law, meaning we always look at the 10 Commandments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Before, in that 26 generations between Adam and Mount Sinai, we were not devoid of obligation to law, as the sages have stated, that there's logic there that does not decree a definite statement. Now we know after the flood, when God's speaking to Noah, we do have the "you shall not murder, shall not shed blood." That's definitely there, but it was already there before the flood. As we're going to see these 6 areas of civility that we're going to get into, there were 7, or actually 6, because after the flood, Creator gave Noah the 7th one on eating meat, the law of eating meat. But so there's 6 civil areas that the sages have seen, and there are 6 laws that man were to live by that we get as you've ever heard me teach on Genesis, which we're going to be going through these again in Genesis as part of this, so I can show you this. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 16, the sages have shown us the light that where it says, but Sav, Hashem Elohim al Adam, and God commanded Adam. From that passage, we see that the Creator is establishing and starting man's moral training. And from that passage, we see that God has given commandments and that there are things that are said, because this was done orally down. There wasn't a spoken, it was done orally. And the sages says these developed as man's relationship with God developed. There was a developing stage because man was a new creation and he was developing in himself as a creation. And as that development came and his understanding was, these laws became known to him. And just like with a man, when Adam said, and a man shall leave his mother and his father and shall cleave unto his wife, we get the laws of forbidden sexual relations from that. We get the law of theft. We can actually get the law of theft from Genesis 2:16 as you continue on into 17 and on into chapter 3, where what God did there was establish boundaries. He says, of all the trees of the garden, this is yours. But if this tree is not yours, he established a boundary. That's yours. This is mine. You can do everything you want. You can have all that's all of yours. But this one you don't touch. Or, well, not don't touch, you don't eat from it. But there was a boundary there. And we learn with what Eve done, we look at her lusting, the desire, and then it says she took something that didn't belong to her. Then she shared her stolen property with her husband. And there's more to the story there that will come later when we get into that. So there was laws. It's just not given in the fashion of Mount Sinai. And this is called the law of the land. And so there's 6 civil areas and there's 6 divine areas, which includes we have the idolatry, immorality and idolatry. We can see the forbidden of, the prohibition of idolatry, the prohibition of blasphemy. It's already known because idolatry was known as early as the grandson of Adam, Enosh. Then we have the theft, prohibition of theft, which we learned at the tree. We have the prohibition of murder, which was already known as well, but reinstated by God to Noah that we should not shed the blood of another man. Forbidden sexual relations, and you shall leave your father and mother and cleave unto your wife and become one flesh. So we see all of this is already there. It's just not given in the same way at Sinai, the way he did for Israel. And so today, those 7 laws that came through Noah, of course, the 7th one being how we eat meat, the law of eating meat, ever mean high, is still established there, but we don't receive it today as oral tradition from Noah and the authority. They're called the Noahide laws because that means the children of Noah. These are the laws of the children of Noah that they're expected to live by. But their authority now comes from God through Moses in the Torah. And it's the job of the Jewish people to teach us these and how and what they mean. So they didn't disappear, just the authority of it shifted from Noah to Moses under the direction of God. And we'll get into more of that in the future. I kind of hope that helps a little bit. Probably brought up more questions, which that's fine and stuff. So, but yes, there's a connection between what I'm seeing in the 6 civil areas that man was judged by before the flood, and the 6 commandments that were there established before the flood, because there were 6, because they weren't permitted to eat meat at that time. So it's interesting how you have 6 civil and 6 divine. And that's just things I'm seeing myself as I study the subject out. Anything else, Scotty? Okay. By examining what the generation of the flood did wrong, we can now formulate what the way of a healthy society, a civil and moral society, should look like. A healthy and civil and moral society. By looking at what they did wrong, we could see what they should have done right. The sages understood and taught that the human society has a natural path, which we've discussed, to follow, the duty-bound moral path that the society of humanity must walk. In fact, the sages of like Ebenezer, as well as Roddick, points out that the words themselves, the Hebrew words derek eretz, literally refer to a basic human natural instinct. A basic natural human instinct, an inherent morality. Furthermore, the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, adds, since it is a natural path, it is therefore an intelligible and rational one. Humanity should have worked out for itself its own moral course without the Creator stepping in. We should have worked out our own moral course, and it's what we should be doing now, because this still is valid for us today. The Torah scholars have stated that Rabbi Samson R. Hirsch, one of my favorite rabbis who I study, because he breaks the Hebrew down, I study his commentaries on the Torah, gave one of the best comprehensive descriptions of what derek eretz, or the way of the world or land, is all about. And I love this. And I looked it up. I've got his commentary on what's called Pirkei Avot, which is the ethics of the fathers. And I went and I found this is actually his quote kind of condensed down here. His quote actually in Pirkei Avot goes several pages, breaking in different levels. But this is the general quote when it's all brought together. The way of the world, or derek eretz, includes everything, and this is from Rabbi Hirsch, who lived like 200-something years ago in Germany. Includes everything that flows from the human being's necessity to perfect his destiny and his shared life with others in society through the medium and the circumstances available to him on earth. The term is used in reference to earning a livelihood, establishing civic order, referring also to the paths of morality and manners and decency, the correct social life, what this correct social life requires, and related to the ongoing universal and civil development of humanity. That's kind of his definition of what the derek eretz puts out, and we can go over this again in further classes. And what I might do is I'll tell you what, Scotty, what I'll do is I'll type this out on a simple walk. I'll put it in a post there, and anyone's welcome to, copy it and print it if you want to, if you don't have access to that. It says, based on Rabbi Hirsch's explanation, it is clear that the most accurate definition of the way of the land is the dual ethics of civility and civic virtue. Civility means treating everyone we encounter and all members of society with consideration, decency, and respect. And I added to this from what we have learned, recognizing the image of the Creator in every human being. Civic virtue means always aspiring to act for the good of the society in general and our fellow citizens specifically. It implies living our lives in a manner which is not only good for ourselves, but always good and focused on the greater good. Throughout the millennia, the Torah sages, as I've mentioned before, and the scholars of Israel has identified 6 different distinct elements that gives definition to what the way of the land is. That's mentioned here in Genesis 6:13. And here's the 6 areas. If you want to write them down, I'll go slowly if you got a pen and paper there. The first one is social etiquette. Social etiquette. Number 2 is ethical character. That's the one that nailed me on Tuesday. I wasn't too ethical in my character. And we'll get in. What I want to do is the next class, we're going to look at all these 6 and look at these individually and discuss them. Earning a living. Contribution to society. 5 is intimate family life. And 6 is environmental consciousness. Sorry about that. So these 6 things are very simple, but yet they're so important because they had each one of these had become corrupted to a point, and plus the laws that we were supposed to live, the prohibition of idolatries and we can see here also the forbidden sexual relations, intimate family life, earning a living. If you're out working, doing your job, being mindful, you're less apt to steal. You're too busy. That's one of the things that the sages teach us a lot. We'll get into about busying ourselves with the things we're supposed to be doing. It can be a fence to keep us from doing what we're not supposed to be doing. But we'll get into that more. Contribution to society, environmental consciousness. We can get that from the laws of Everman High, the prohibition of we're being forbidden to eat meat taken from a living animal. The sages have shown that law can connect us with not only how an animal is treated that we are permitted to eat, but also we can get subcategories of how we treat the earth from that. So it's not nothing, some people, I had a guy ask me one time, is the Torah concerned about the earth? Are there environmental issues in the Torah or in the 7 laws? And I'm like, oh yeah. And I started explaining to him the sub areas of Everman High, and it blew him away. I said, oh, there's a lot. I said, there's even a principle in Israel that a child, when they're walking down the street, they're not even permitted to pluck a leaf off a tree unless they have a purpose for it. If you don't have a purpose for it, leave it alone. And so, yes, environmental consciousness is part of the 6 areas. These 6 areas were corrupted along with the 6 commandments that we have that are logical, that didn't have to be told to us. And the earth was judged by them. God doesn't judge arbitrarily. He didn't judge them because they didn't know better. They knew better. That was the big problem. They knew better. Because even the sages look at that. He says, the end of all flesh has come before me. The sages says in reading that, you can also read it that all flesh is going to end if I don't do something. And that's another way that Torah passage is read in the Hebrew. That we are about self-annihilated because we violated these 6 areas and the other 6 areas. So it's a very interesting topic. And then when we have what's going on in our country here in the United States and what's going on in, your countries, wherever you're at. I know we have a lot of different people in the on the radio station that listens to us from Brazil and, in Europe and places like that. You have areas that's going on in your countries as well that we have to concern ourselves with. And so this is the way of the world. These 6 ways: social etiquette, ethical character, earning a living, contribution to society, intimate family life, environmental consciousness. This is the way of the world, the way human beings ought to organize themselves in order to create a sustainable society. Societies which create such laws were able to govern themselves and succeed and grow. Societies which did not, they failed, as in the greatest generational failure of all. And that was the flood, which so gravely compromised its moral way that it not only lost its right to exist, but it indeed caused the destruction of the entire world. Without the Derek Erets, without the way of the world cannot exist and societies cannot function in a sustainable way. We're always talking about, we're one of our jobs as one of the nations, the pious of the nations, is to make the world a better place. And this is where it begins. Because without it, we can't make a sustainable world. These 6 areas of the way of the world seem simple. And there is an absence of divine law concerning civil rights and behavior. So why such a harsh judgment on that generation, which I discussed earlier? One of the Torah scholars of Israel, his name's hard to pronounce, Sikuni, that's the best I can say. His discussion on Genesis chapter 7:1, which is, and God said to Noah, "Come into the ark, you and your household, for it is you that I have seen as righteous as a righteous man before me in this generation." In his discussion on this passage, he explains how the generation of the flood could have received divine punishment, even though they had not received any particular command about living a moral life. So he wasn't directly commanded. It's all inferred in the relationship with God as man grew in his relationship with God. If you will question why it was that the generation of the flood was punished if there was no, quote, like Exodus 20 commands to fulfill, the answer is that there is various commandments. Sages says there's various commandments that the people must keep based on human logic, even if they were not specifically commanded to keep them. And that is why they were punished. And so this way of the land did not cease at Mount Sinai. The Torah that God gave Israel upholds it, supports it, and defines it. Where before it was oral, now it was given to Israel in a written format and an oral format at Mount Sinai for them to explain to us. But the world is still judged by the 6 civil ways of life and the 7 mitzvahs that was known unto Noah after the flood. We're still judged by that because we don't have to be told, really, that theft is wrong. You know inside you that theft is not right. So there are some things and because of the reason why this is a natural path, comes from that little bitty thing where it says that he created us in the image of God. Every human being bears a spark of the divine. And with that spark comes a natural path of uprightness that we're responsible for. And these are the things these 6 areas over the next week or so I'd like to get into, and we can discuss. So if you've written those things down, think about them. I've actually started researching some of them up on the internet, just looking at them in a natural, non-religious format. Going to websites. I've been going to websites on social etiquette, character building. It's all there naturally. And so we can get together and discuss these 6 areas over the next week or so. If it's kind of what my goal was for the next couple of classes. Because yes, it seems simple, but it's so important that millions of people and a whole generation of humanity lost its life because they corrupted that. It's not complicated. God doesn't expect complication from us. It's very simple. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says God is simple. There's a passage where it says that the Creator is a Tom. He's Tom. He's simple. And there is a simplicity about this that He expects from us to understand it. You don't mean, He says, clean your room up. Well, we know how to clean our room up. We know where our clothes goes in the closet and our toys goes in the boxes. You know what I'm saying? You know how you and your brother and your sister shouldn't fight and argue. You see, we can bring it down to practicality and just within a family unit to understand these 6 areas. To how simple, and natural. These are natural to us because we all bear the image of God. Go ahead, Scotty.
In discussing those, I always, and I make mention of this a lot, and you're going to know as soon as I start on this. A teaching by Rabbi Skobach, and he did this teaching years ago, and I came across it, and I've listened to it 1,000 times about Torah. The goal of Torah's teaching is to reveal to us our connection with the Creator, our connection with creation, our connection with humanity, and our connection with ourselves. And as you went through those 6 things tonight, I see those aspects. Our connection with ourself is the one that I study on a lot, because if we're disconnected with ourselves, we will be disconnected to humanity and disconnected to creation and disconnected to the Creator. But if we work on ourselves and connecting with ourselves, and I know people's already saying, what does that mean? Because most people say deny your, kill yourself, things of that nature, spiritually, But I find that if I work on my character, connection with yourself, then I'm able to see others. I'm going to say problems. I'm able to connect with their needs more better. Does that make sense? And also I'm able, if I connect with myself, if I worked on my character, that's part of connecting with yourself. I'm able to connect with creation better. The birds, the animals, the tree, just even the wind going through the trees at a small breeze and listening to it. And then with working on my character, I find myself connected with the Creator even more. So I just want to throw that in. So I see those aspects in what you're bringing out.
Again, as it being a natural path that we should know, the Creator brings this out in Genesis chapter 4:7.
Yeah.
When he tells Cain, he starts out, an English translation says, surely, means you know what I'm about to tell you. When you read that, it's what it is saying, surely what I'm going to tell you, you already know, but he's going to tell him anyhow. He says, surely you do know that if you improve yourself, you'll be forgiven. But if you don't improve yourself, then sin or failure, however you want to look at it, is waiting for you. But the Creator ends it like this: but you can conquer it. You can overcome it. You can improve. And so right there in Genesis 4:7, we're giving this conversation between God and Cain for all of us, because it's the very Bereshit, in the beginning. It's the beginning relationship with God. And in that beginning, he says, you can improve yourself. And if you improve yourself, then you're going to be forgiven. And I don't know if who all saw the parable on repentance that I put up in A Simple Walk. This improving can be looked at this in this parable.
Yeah.
You know, this man goes out and he's got a brand new pair of walking shoes. He's going to go out on spring morning. He's walking, enjoying the spring, beautiful, beautiful air, and just the birds are singing. The smell of the fresh flowers and the blooming of the trees are coming out. And he gets so raptured up in his environment that he wanders off into a muddy field. And he looks down and he sees he's in a muddy field. His brand new shoes are covered in mud. So he starts to pick them up and clean them off. And all he does, he sticks it right back down in the mud. But to get his shoes clean, he's got to go to a clean place. So he takes and he works his way back to the road. Well, he's still walking in mud. The path of repentance and improving yourself, part of that journey is still in the mud. Until you get to that place, until you can get to that place where you can clean your shoes, you're still walking in mud, but it's the journey toward the clean place. The improvement, you're improving yourself. Even though clip, clop, you're in the mud, you're improving yourself because you're working to a good place. And I found that parable when that it was really, really cool. I'm cleaning out my desk and I come across that in some notes that I took, 15 years ago or so. I don't even remember who wrote it. I kind of rewrote it because it's just something I wrote down from in a class I was in. And so I just kind of rewrote it and gave it a little bit better storyline. But the message is still there. Repentance begins standing in a muddy field. Part of repentance is walking out of that field. You're still in the mud, but you're walking out. And that's what Genesis 4:7 is all about. Surely if you will improve yourself. God doesn't expect you to be standing in a muddy field and your shoes get clean all of a sudden. It's a journey. It was a journey into sin, and it's a journey out of sin. Go ahead,
Rabbi Cowan. Where's Rabbi Cowan? Where's Rabbi Cowan? Am I
Australia?
Australia. He was teaching a class one night, and I just was so blessed to be in that class. And he was talking about the GPS, and you put your destination in the GPS and it gives you the best route to make it to your destination. But you know how we are. Sometimes we'll take a wrong turn. And the GPS is trying to give us a route to get back to the route to get us to the destination. Sometimes the GPS will take us down roads that you probably wouldn't go on normally. Sometimes it would turn you down a road that, the houses look funny. You know what I'm talking about? It's taking you down roads, trying to get you back to your road of destination, so to take you to your destination. And I thought that was great. Like you said, the mud, sometimes we have to, and I don't know about you all, but sometimes I don't mind my GPS. Does everybody mind their GPS? I don't think it's that I don't mind it. It's that I don't listen to it as good.
I mean, I had that same situation because, I don't know a lot of the places here in Chattanooga yet because we've only lived actually down here for a while. And so I had to take some parts way over the middle of Alabama a couple of weeks ago. And because of all the construction going on, the roads coming into Chattanooga, I decided I'm going to get off some side roads because I know where some are in my mind, but I don't know where they're at. And because most of the time I was with someone traveling there, and when you're with someone, you don't pay attention. So I put the dealership in there and where I was at, and it took me through some of those neighborhoods in Chattanooga. I'm like, I don't remember ever being over in here to get over there. but I just stayed with it. And before I knew it, there was like that one turn. Oh, I know right where I'm at. But I had to go through some areas that I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah.
So
I like one thing Rabbi Cowan said that night was that the Creator didn't just make that path, to get the corrected path, the correction path, the path to get you back on your correct journey. He just didn't create it just so you could travel it. It was always there just in case you needed to get yourself back.
Oh, now that'll preach.
Yeah. It was, he is Rabbi Cowan. If you ever get a chance just to set in, and what's his book? What is his books that he's got? He's got doesn't he have a couple of books?
This is the one, the big one he's got, or the main one. I've had it for years.
Yeah.
The theory and practice of universal ethics, the Noahide laws. Now, the first part of this book, he wrote the second part first years before. I always recommend going to that section first because the first part is like a thesis. He's discussing some things and talking about, some things from Frankel. And it's kind of a tough read, but as far as the laws go, the second half is really good, and go back and catch them for. But Rabbi Cowan is a very highly educated man, and so his writings reflects that high level of education.
Yeah,
but it's a very good book. It's one that stays nearer on my desk most of the time. I couldn't tell you over the years how much I've consulted that one.
He's got another one, and I've got it here someplace. When I read his books, I can only read a couple of chapters, a couple of areas at a time, not a whole chapter, maybe even half a page, and I have to stop and think.
Yeah,
I have to stop and absorb it.
Well, just real quick, he is he's founder and director of the Institute for Judaism and Civilization in Melbourne, Australia. He has a PhD in social philosophy. He knows how to communicate the concepts of ancient, eternal, universal ethics to those raised in a secular culture in terms of language and concepts of its disciplines. His late father, was the Governor General of Australia, Sir Zalman Cowan of blessed memory. And so, yeah, he comes from an educated family. And his writing reflects the writing styles of somebody from like that. But it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It was one of my first, I guess the reason why it's one of my favorites, because it was one of the first ones that I got my hands on years ago.
All right, Terry, we've almost been at it for an hour and a half. Are we about to close out?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. We thank everybody that's in the Zoom room. And we want to pre-think. Thank you, Bob, for fixing that. I seen Bob go, what did you just say? I'm from Townsend, Bob. You have to work with me a little bit. I want to thank everybody who's going to come in next week. Those listening through Power Faith Radio, those of you listening on YouTube, come on over to the Zoom room. Maybe you're watching this recording and you'd like to say, hey, I'd like to be in the live session. Come on over and be in the Zoom room and just be with us, ask questions right here. We greatly appreciate it.
If you got any questions this week from the class, please get them to us so we can discuss them. Write them down so you can, shoot them over to Scotty during class next week. That's fine.
Yes.
That's what we want to do, is take time to discuss this.
Yes.
We just don't want to blow and go. We want, because to me, I feel like this is so important for us in our day and time.
Right. I am going to be putting a mailing address on a simple walk to someone in our area that I'll get that put together and put in there tomorrow, who is very reliable. I've had some people send me some funds, and that's great. I have moved them to him. He's leaving again in the morning, going to another small town up in the mountains to take some more. He's getting it together, and then somebody's going to be taking it up there. He himself is not. He's just getting this together and getting it and putting it up there. So, and I would love to hook everybody up with him, that if you want to help, again, I say we can't, there's so many people devastated in this flood that happened. I can't even pronounce the hurricane's name. It starts with an H. Harleen, what is it? What's the hurricane's name?
Helene.
Ronald lives in Australia and he knows more than we know who live here. So thank you, Ronald. But there was a lot of devastation. And so anyway, we can't help everybody, but we can help somebody. So I'm going to be putting some links and some addresses in A Simple Walk that maybe you can contact, and you can send funds to us. And we've been kind of passing them on. I passed some on to him. I've also been in contact with, as I said during the class tonight, a local funeral home, and I'm going to be talking to them some more on how to help with some of that. I think it's up to 156 that's passed now. Is that?
Scotty.
Yeah.
Real quick. I contacted Andrea over in Bryson City.
Okay. Yeah.
I contacted her and see how she was doing. There's a river that runs right through the middle of town there.
Yes.
It's one of the areas my wife and I love going to. Bryson City. There's a bed and breakfast we like to stay at up there. She said her side of the mountain was good. There was some flooding in the town, but not like what some of the other towns got. But her and her children are safe. Great.
All right, everybody. We thank you so much for your time. We thank you for your love. And come back and be with us next week. We'll be here, Hashem willing. And those of you listening on Power Faith Radio, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. There's a lot of comments, a lot of emojis. They're really liking this class, so we thank you so much. And those of you watching this on YouTube, maybe you're watching the recording, maybe you're watching the recording that was shared on a Simple Walk Facebook page. Join the groups, join the YouTube channel, hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. Send us an email. You can send it to outreachnoah@gmail.com. Until next week, see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.